Hello, welcome. Thank you for joining me. My name is Lauren and I am the Yoga and Fitness Program Coordinator at the McFetridge Sports Center. And today I'll be walking you through a slow flow yoga practice where we will focus on forward bending. So allowing the chest to sort of come down towards the lower part of the torso, allowing this rounding action, creating openness through the backside of the torso. So that's where we're going to be moving today. You don't need any props. I always like to have 2 blocks and a thinly folded blanket, but if you don't have those things, that's okay. We are going to start on our backs. So I always like to use this thinly folded blanket as some cushion for under my head. Again, if you've got that, that's great. If you don't, that's okay. But make your way down onto your back. Come all the way down onto your back with your knees bent and your feet flat. Now, I like to have my feet a little bit wider than hip distance, almost like mat distance, and I like to let the knees knock in. But if it is more comfortable for you to let your legs be long against your mat, you're welcome to do that. But once you find yourself in a comfortable position, really let yourself settle into it. Let your muscles and your joints and your bones all soften. And as you let your body rest, notice your breath. Notice the way that your breath travels and flows through your body. Now, to really notice your natural breath, one thing that you can do, and I'll be doing this here in a moment, is to really feel your breath with your hands. So bring your right hand to your low belly, below your belly button, and your left hand over your chest, by your heart, by your collarbones. So right hand at the low belly, below the belly button, the left hand over the chest, but let the elbows rest on the ground. So if your hands are a little off center, if your hands sort of on your hip and your shoulder, that's okay. And then notice your breath. Notice which hand, the right, the left, neither or both, can really feel the breath beneath it. Spend some time here noticing your breath. Which hand can feel the breath beneath it? Now, most often, especially when we are upright, when we're seated or when we're standing, we breathe into the chest. So then you would feel the breath in your left hand, by your collarbones, by your heart. But because we're reclined and taking slower breaths, you might find that you can transition easily into sending your breath down to the right hand, down to the low belly. So these breaths are called belly breaths. So spend some time here taking these deep belly breaths. Send your breath all the way down to the right hand, to your low belly. Feel the breath beneath the right hand. Let's take 3 more breaths like that. And at the end of that 3rd belly breath, just return back to your natural breath. Breathe in a way that feels organic and effortless. And you can allow your arms to return alongside your body with the palms facing up. And just notice how you feel. Okay, now keeping your attention inward and your awareness present, if it feels right for you in this moment, you're welcome to silently set an intention for your practice. Asking yourself what brought you to your mat. You might find yourself thinking of something physical, maybe mental, maybe spiritual. There's no right or wrong answers. Just allow yourself to think of a positive word or phrase and repeat it slowly and silently to yourself to allow it to settle in your heart. You can start to slowly deepen your breath. Give yourself a few moments to move in any way that feels good. So maybe start blinking your eyes open if they were closed. Maybe take a full body stretch or hug your knees into your chest. But give yourself a few moments to move in any way that feels good. Just noticing how you feel. Notice what's going on for you. Just a few more moments. All right, then we'll meet again with the knees bent and the feet flat. Here, feet and knees can be either together or hip distance apart, whatever feels best. Here, I like the arms out in opposite directions, palms facing up, and let the knees just sway side to side. So they're not going to fall all the way over. They're probably not going to touch the floor. That's okay. They might only go maybe about halfway or about a 45-degree angle. That's okay. We're just moving the legs, letting them sway side to side and rock right to left to start to warm up through the spine, to twist the spine. So we're going to be moving through forward bends through this practice. So the opposite of back bends. People are usually really familiar with back bends. We're going to be doing forward bends. So again, that's sort of allowing the upper part of the chest and the upper part of the torso to fall forward towards the lower part of the torso, towards the thighs. So everything that we're doing, whether it's for the spine or maybe it's for the hips or maybe it's something for the upper body, but make sure that everything is comfortable as we're moving. In a slow flow practice, you can expect to do some poses that will take some work, but for the most part, everything should feel pretty good. So let's do this one more time each side. Let the legs go right and left, one more time each side. Okay, and then you can return back to the center. Okay. So for this one, I like feet and knees hip distance apart, and I like the arms alongside the body with the palms down. We want to keep the arms relaxed, so avoid the temptation to push the palms into the floor. We're going to focus just on the pelvis and just on the lower section of the spine. It's because it's a small movement, it's fairly subtle. You're not going to feel a whole lot. That's okay. We're just starting to get your spine, again, warmed up for those forward bends. So you're going to keep your upper body relaxed, your upper body fairly still. Same with the legs. I want you to focus just on your pelvis and your lower back. So as you inhale, let your belly button reach towards the ceiling. Really lift the ribs away from the floor. Notice that if you were to slide your hand under your lower back and the mat, you would be able to slide your arm there. Maybe not the whole arm, but at least the fingers. So this is a little bit of a back bend. This is an extension. Take a deep breath in. And as you exhale, do the opposite. Push your spine into the floor. Push your ribs into your mat like you're scooping your lower belly, like you're pointing your belly button towards your face. Okay, so now inhale, point your belly button towards the thighs, lift it towards the sky, create a space between your lower back and the floor, and exhale, push the ribs down, push the belly down, tip the belly button towards the face. Move with your breath. Inhale, reach the ribs to the ceiling. Exhale, push the ribs into the floor. Inhale, lift the ribs up towards the sky. Exhale, draw the ribs down into the earth. So we'll do just a few more rounds like this. If you're familiar with cat and cow, this is essentially a supine, reclined version of cat and cow. We're focusing just on the pelvis and the lower sections of the spine, ensuring that it will be warmed up. Okay, so do about one more of each. Move with your breath. There's no rush, there's no hurry. And again, you might not be feeling a whole lot. That's all right.
And then you can slowly return sort of to neutral. So neither reaching nor pushing, but just sort of in the middle. Notice how that feels, that you can't necessarily stick your arm all the way under your lower back, but you're not pushing down. Okay, so this is neutral. Just stay for a moment. Okay, take a deep breath in. As you breathe out, hug your knees into your chest. You might rock side to side for a moment here. Maybe take a happy baby, point and flex the feet, whatever you need. Just one more breath. And then work your way up to a seat. You can roll to the side and push yourself up, or you can rock through the center. But we're gonna meet in a seated position. Whenever we take a seated position for really more than one pose, I like to sit on something. So if you've got something you can sit on, like a block, that's wonderful. But again, if you don't, that's okay. All right. Okay, so take any comfortable seated position, anything that makes sense for you, but continue to sit up tall, relax your shoulders, relax your arms. We're gonna focus on your spine. So inhale, draw your belly forward, lift your chest, lift your heart, look up. Exhale, tuck the tailbone, draw the ribs back, chin to the chest, look down towards your belly button. Inhale, draw the belly forward, lift the chest, lift the heart, look up. Exhale, tuck the tailbone, ribs back, chin to the chest, look down. Let's just do a few more of each, because we did do this on our backs. But you'll notice, probably feel in your own body, that the movements are much larger. We're now not just focusing on the pelvis and the lower section. We're able to move everything. So now you'll feel a little bit more in a very comfortable way, hopefully. This should feel good. Let's do one more of each. So even though we are going to focus on forward bending, this action here, when you're sort of looking down towards your lap, we still need to move the spine in all of its directions. So return back to neutral for just a moment. Really sit up tall, relax the shoulders, but inhale, circle the arms up, fingertips to the sky. Exhale, bring the right hand down, bring it down onto the floor, sweep left fingertips over. Inhale to the center, lengthen up, really sit up tall and neutral, and then come into that side stretch on the opposite side. Inhale to the center, lengthen, grow tall. Exhale, take the side stretch. Now when we take the side stretch, we really want to think about tipping and sort of hinging at your waist. So it's not allowing the whole body to move over, it's just at your waist. I used to teach kids yoga, and I had a lot of yoga kids songs, and one of them was I'm a Little Teapot, and that was sort of, we did this sort of action, tipping and bending at the waist, not at your hips or at your seat. Let's do this one more time each side. So sometimes I think about that, I'm a little teapot, and I am today, I guess. I thought I'd share that. Sort of tipping over, though, leaning over to the side, and then return back to the center, lengthen up, sit up tall. Exhale, drop the arms and twist over the right. Maintain the length, but you've added a twist to it. Inhale to the center, lengthen up, grow tall in that neutral position, and then the twist can be a little deeper, a little fuller. Inhale, lengthen, again, sitting up tall in that neutral position, and then exhale into the rotation. Inhale, lengthen, exhale, rotate. Inhale, let's do one more each side. Even when your arms come up overhead, keep the shoulders relaxed away from the ears. We're focusing on the spine, not the shoulders, not the arms. So let them just sort of go along for the ride. Return to the center, and then allow the arms to come all the way down. Okay, so the spine is warmed up. Now we're gonna get other spaces warmed up as well. So we're gonna come into tabletop. I always like to bring my blocks to the top two corners of your mat. Again, that's optional. Okay. All right, so we're gonna meet in tabletop on all fours on our hands and knees. So in a traditional tabletop, knees are under hips, wrists are under shoulders, but for this sort of flow, we're going to be moving through. Walk your hands one whole handprint closer to the top of your mat, farther away from your knees. So you're in sort of this long stance tabletop. That's all right. Okay, so you're going to take a deep breath in. And as you exhale, come into an active child's pose. Draw the hips towards the heels. Keep the elbows off the ground. Inhale, shift forward into this long tabletop. Exhale, shift back into this active child's pose. Arms stay off the ground, hips towards the heels. Inhale to shift forward. Exhale to shift back. We'll do this a few more times. Now keep spreading your fingers as wide as you possibly can. pushing the palms into the ground, but also the fingertips. Really clawing at the mat. Okay. Now, you can stay just like this. If this is all you need, stay here. Or inhale, shift forward to tabletop. Exhale, hook the toes under, come into a downward facing dog. But then we're going to come back to it. Inhale, tabletop. Exhale, child's pose. Inhale, tabletop. Exhale, down dog. Inhale, tabletop. Exhale, child's pose. Let's do that one more through. Inhale, tabletop. Exhale, down dog. Inhale, tabletop. Exhale, child's pose. And let's all meet in tabletop in just a moment. Okay, so we'll all meet back in tabletop. Now we've got this longer tabletop going. Again, the hands are a little bit forward of the shoulders. So let's just keep going with that. Let's hook the toes under. Inhale. Exhale, downward facing dog. And let's stay for just a few moments. Maybe you pedal out the heels, you sway the hips, you shake the head yes and no, whatever feels good. Remembering that this is your practice, you're in control. Notice how your body is feeling and make any adjustments needed. One more breath. Okay, now from downward facing dog, deeply bend the knees. Inhale, look forward to the space between your thumbs, and exhale, travel forward. Walk or step forward into forward fold Uttanasana. Feet are hip distance apart towards the top of the mat. They look like the number 11, all 10 toes pointing forward. And here, you're in a forward bend. So you're just letting your upper body surrender to gravity. It's not a very active forward bend. We'll do some more active ones later. But this is very passive. Your knees might be softly bent. They might be deeply bent. But early in the practice, I would suggest some bend in the knees. And just allowing the upper body to just surrender. Take a deep breath. Okay. Now firmly push the heels of the feet down into the floor. Inhale, lift up halfway. Let's hold it here for a moment. So you can always bring your hands onto blocks, shins, or thighs, somewhere where you can lengthen, reach the crown of your head forward, your tailbone back, really grow tall and long. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale, fold. Push the heels into the floor. Inhale, rise all the way up. Circle the arms, fingertips reach up towards the sky. Maybe you even look up towards the sky, and then slowly bring your hands to your heart. Take a deep breath in mountain pose. Okay, so from here, let's move through some half sun salutations and then some full sun salutations. Half sun salutations, we're basically going to be coming into that passive forward bend again. So just make sure that when you're moving in and out of the forward bend, even though it is a forward bend and you might feel the stretch through your back, you might feel it through your legs as well. But in the forward bend, when you're coming out of it especially, and in it really, your legs should be taking on the work. So in a forward bend, even though we think about the spine is bending, the spine shouldn't also be doing the work while it is in that forward bend. So just think about really planting the heels of the feet into the floor. Fire up the backs of the legs, especially the backs of the thighs, the hamstrings. Okay, so stand up tall, relax the shoulders, soften the throat, neck, and jaw. Inhale, sweep the fingertips up towards the ceiling. Exhale, hinge at the hips. Use the hamstrings as you slowly lower into forward fold, Uttanasana. Push the heels into the floor. Inhale, lift up halfway, Ardha Uttanasana. This is a neutral spine. Exhale, fold forward, forward bend. Push the heels into the floor. Inhale, rise, fingertips to the sky. We're gonna do that 2 more times. Exhale, hinge at the hips. Use the work of the muscles of the legs to fold forward. Inhale, lift up halfway. Exhale, fold. Push the heels down. Inhale, rise. Fingertips to the sky. We're going to do that 1 more time. Bring the hands through to the heart. Thread it all the way through. Fold down into Uttanasana. Forward fold, forward bend. Inhale, lift halfway, neutral spine. Exhale, folding forward, deeper into this forward bend. And inhale, rise up. Now let's go right into the full sun salutation. So exhale, hinge at the hips. Fold forward. Forward fold Uttanasana. Inhale, lift up halfway. Exhale, step the right foot back, all the way back. Okay, coming into this runner's lunge, we're just gonna pause here. So each foot is in its own lane of traffic. All 10 toes are pointing forward. We wanna make sure we're not turning the back toes out. We'll do that later, and later that will have a specific intention, but we're not doing that here. Okay, so hips forward, toes forward, really push the hands into whatever it is that's on the ground to really lift your chest. Inhale, exhale, downward facing dog. So taking your time stepping back into downward facing dog, Adho Mukha Svanasana. The hands are shoulder distance, the feet are hip distance. Take a moment. And then inhale, shift forward to plank pose. We're gonna pause here for a moment. So know that you're welcome to stay here or drop to your knees and be in this modified plank, but the front side of your body should feel like it's working. So keep pushing the hands down, lift the chest, take a moment here. Feel how strong you are. Inhale, shift forward, exhale, slowly lower, all the way down into your belly. Bring the tops of your feet down into the ground. Bring your arms alongside your body and lift your upper body using the muscles of your back. So lift your arms, your hands, your shoulders, your chest, your head and neck off the ground, but use the muscles of your back to do so. Pull the heart forward, draw the shoulders down and back. Take a deep breath in. Exhale, bring the hands down, hook the toes under. Downward facing dog, Adho Mukha Svanasana. Take a breath. Okay. Now slowly pick up the right foot, reach the right heel back. Inhale. Exhale, draw the right knee forward towards the belly. Quietly place that right foot in between your hands. Take as many steps as you need to get it there. Hands can come back to the blocks if you prefer. So you're back in the runner's lunge. Toes forward, hips forward, feet hip distance apart. You push your hands down into whatever your hands are on, blocks or the floor, to lift the chest, lengthen the spine. We don't want a forward bend here in this pose. We want forward bends sometimes, but not all the time. Take a breath. Inhale, exhale, step forward, forward fold, this forward bend, Uttanasana. Push the heels down. Inhale, lift up halfway. Exhale, fold. Push the heels down. Inhale, rise, fingertips to the sky. Maybe at a back bend, we're gonna do that again. Exhale, hinge the hips, fold forward, Uttanasana. Inhale, lift up halfway, Ardha Uttanasana. Exhale, step the left foot back, all the way back, runner's lunge. We're just pausing here. Check that all 10 toes are forward. Push firmly through the right heel into the ground. You should be able to wiggle your right toes. Inhale, exhale, downward facing dog. Take your time, there's no rush. This is a slow flow. You check in with your downward facing dog, check in with your hands especially. Excuse me. And inhale, shift forward to plank pose. Excuse me. To plank. So you can drop to your knees or stand your toes, but push your hands down, lift your chest. Inhale, shift forward. Exhale, slowly lower. Tops of the feet down on the ground, bring the arms alongside the body. Inhale, lift. So lifting the upper body, lifting the hands, the arms, the shoulders, the head and the neck. Pull the heart forward, reach the fingertips back. Take a deep breath in. Exhale, bring the hands down, hook the toes under, downward facing dog. Take a deep breath. Now slowly, pick up the left foot, reach the left heel back. Inhale. Exhale, draw the left knee forward towards your belly and quietly place that foot in between the hands. Again, you can always come back to the blocks, but push the left heel down. You should be able to easily wiggle your left toes. Protect your left knee. Take a deep breath in. Exhale, step the right foot forward in between the hands. Forward fold. Push the heels into the floor. Inhale, lift up halfway. Exhale, fold forward. Inhale, rise all the way up. Circle the fingertips to the sky, maybe at a back bend. Slowly bring your hands to your heart. Take a deep breath. Okay.
Excuse me. Okay. Standing poses. Let's do it. Inhale, circle the arms up. Exhale, hinge of the hips, fold forward. Inhale, lift halfway. Exhale, step the right foot back. Now we're going to take a little bit of a shorter stance. So we don't want to step it back as far as we possibly could. Walk it forward, just one little hop. Now we want the right toes to be turned out at about a 45-degree angle, almost like your right toes are pointing just off the right front corner of your mat. Deeply bend the left knee. Push the left heel into the floor and inhale, rise. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Warrior one. So warrior one, your heels are on the same plane. So that's often how this pose is taught. Hopefully you can see this edge of my mat. If it was like a tightrope, each heel would be on that tightrope. So oftentimes teachers call this pose a heel to heel alignment pose. So you might be used to practicing this pose that way, and that's fine. I often encourage students to take a little bit more of like a hips width distance stance in the heels, but you do what feels good. You place your heels where you need to, and then you push them down into the floor. So that's why that's important. Where you're placing them, I want you to feel like you have the best footing, the best availability, the best potential to really push the heels into the ground. So heels and feet and legs are grounding, but the spine, the arms, the fingertips feel light and lift upward. Take a deep breath. Warrior one, Virabhadrasana one. Okay. Now from here, keep most of your body as it is. Just release your arms, bring them behind your back. So you can interlace the fingers here. You can grab onto opposite elbows, or maybe reverse namaskar, palms together, but then flip so that fingertips point up towards the sky. Okay. Any one of those, though, is perfectly fine. You're going to keep deeply bending your left knee, push the left heel into the floor, reach the knuckles down and back. If you're interlace the fingers like I have in Yoga Mudra, interlace the fingers, reach the knuckles down and back towards that right heel. Inhale, lift the chest and heart. Exhale, fold forward. Now, you've got a few options. Your torso might rest on your thigh, and that's fine. Your torso might hang between your thighs, and you might sort of drop your head and look through your thighs sort of back into the left. Whatever you need, whatever feels good, but you're most likely in a little bit of a forward bend, maybe dropping the head. You might drop your head and look back at your right big toe, but keep pushing the heels down, reaching the knuckles up towards the ceiling. Take a deep breath, humble warrior. Firmly push the heels into the ground and inhale, slowly rise. Release the arms, fingertips back up towards the sky. Warrior one again, take a deep breath. Okay, now firmly push the left heel down to straighten that left leg. Now you've got lots of options with your arms again. Now, if you're unsure, you've never done this next pose, which is pyramid pose, hands can be at the hips. But also again, Yoga Mudra, interlace the elbows, or reverse namaskar. You've got options. I'm gonna probably just have my hands on my hips. Okay, so we really wanna make sure that the right hip isn't drawing back. Draw your right hip forward towards the front edge of your mat, your left hip back towards the back edge of your mat. Your belly button should be pointing forward, not forward and to the right. Okay, so push the heels down, stand up tall, inhale. Exhale as you fold forward. Now, you're gonna hinge here at your hips. So you're keeping your back flat and in neutral for as long as possible. You might even bring your hands down onto your shin or onto blocks. And you might keep your back flat, again, in neutral. Drawing the left hip back, right hip forward. You'll feel most of the sensation here in your back, the back of your left thigh, left hamstrings. But if you wanna add another forward bend, you can round through your upper body. Draw your chin to your chest, drop your head, you're looking back again at your right big toe or towards the back of your mat. You might again interlace the fingers. You might take some other action here in your arms. You're welcome to. I'm not going to. This feels good for me. But you might round forward again, allowing that stretch through the backside of the torso in this forward bend, a spinal flexion. Take a deep breath. Now firmly push the heels into the floor and slowly, deeply bend the left knee.
Firmly push the heels into the floor. Inhale, rise one more time for a warrior one on this side for just a breath. Inhale, exhale, plant the hands, step back, downward facing dog. Now, if you'd like to take a vinyasa, you're welcome to. Taking a vinyasa would be to inhale to plank, exhale to lower, inhale to the back bend, or you could just hang out in down dog or child's pose. Give yourself another breath or two. Okay, now let's all meet in downward facing dog. Okay, and then down dog. Deeply bend the knees. Inhale, look forward. Exhale, travel forward. Forward fold, Uttanasana. We'll come right into our standing poses on the second side from here. So inhale, lift up halfway. Exhale, step the left foot back. Now again, we're not stepping it all the way back. This isn't the longest stance you can take, and I'll explain why in a moment. So it's a little bit of a shorter stance, and I like the heels hip distance apart in my body. But you can sort of do that tightrope action again. All right, but left toes are hooked in, right knee is deeply bent, both heels push into the floor, and that's what allows you to lift to a warrior one. So right knee is deeply bending, left heel is grounding, and even though the left heel is pulling back, we want the left hip forward. So that's a big reason for that. If that back foot was even farther back, there's no way the hips would turn forward. And even as I do it here, as I attempt it, I can feel a lot of tension in my knee start to build up. So a shorter stance is gonna help you square the hips, relieve the knee. Okay, lengthen the spine, reach up with the arms, soften the shoulders, take a deep breath. Okay, we're gonna keep the legs as they are, just return the arms. Okay, so option one, interlace the fingers. Option two, grab elbows. Option three, reverse namaskar. There we go. Okay, interlacing the fingers is just fine. If you do this, interlace them the other way from the last time. Okay, power through the knuckles, or however you've got your arms. I want you to lift your chest. I want you to feel expansive through your chest and heart. Inhale. Exhale as you start to fall forward, humble warrior. Now you might rest your torso on your right thigh. You might let it hang sort of through. My balance is a little off today. Okay, so either way, wherever you're at, you're in a little bit of a forward bend. You can just let your head feel heavy. Maybe you drop your head, look sort of back at your left big toe, wherever you need to be, but this is humble warrior. Keep pushing the heels into the floor. Take a deep breath. Slowly release the arms, push the heels into the floor, inhale, rise. Warrior one. Okay, now, last one on this side that's similar. We're gonna push the right heel into the floor, straighten the leg, and then take another arm variation. I'm gonna keep my hands at my hips, but you can take any one of those other ones instead. But this one, legs are straight. We're focused here more on pulling the left hip forward and the right hip back. Just here, my back knee just cracked because I was doing it. So you might feel a little bit in the left knee, but just a little bit. I felt just enough to make it crack, and now it feels better, but that's me. Okay, so I like hands at the hips, square the hips, push the heels down. Inhale, stand up tall. Exhale, fold with a flat back. I always like to think it's as if I'm wearing like a corset or a back brace. My back isn't gonna round until I want it to, okay? So keep the back flat, square the hips, right hip back, left hip forward. You might stay here. You might bring your hands down. You might round through your spine. So when you're ready, once you've established where everything else goes, then you've got the option to round. This is pyramid pose, Parsvattanasana. Okay, keep pushing heels into the floor, squaring the hips to the center, or to the front of the room, excuse me. Take one more deep breath here. Firmly push the heels down. Slowly bend the right knee, and then inhale, rise to our last warrior one for a full breath. Inhale, exhale. Okay, and then to transition, inhale, exhale, plant the hands down, step back, downward facing dog. You're welcome to a vinyasa, a child's pose, whatever you need. Give yourself about 3 to 5 breaths. From downward facing dog. Deeply bend the knees, come all the way down into tabletop. Okay. From tabletop, let's all come into child's pose for just a few moments. So bring the big toes together, the knees wide. Knees might even be mat distance if that feels okay in your hips. And then you might crawl your arms forward and just let your forehead rest on the mat. You might stack your hands or fists and let your forehead rest there. But child's pose, depending on your body and depending on the way you have specifically set this pose up for yourself, it might be a forward bend. So notice how your spine is feeling in child's pose. Oftentimes students make a note of how their hips feel in child's pose. They notice how good their hips feel. And that's good too. But what is your spine saying? How does your back feel? And are the lower back and the upper back maybe feeling different things? Spend a few breaths just noticing. Take one more deep breath here. Okay, and then keeping your hands in contact with the mat, slide your hands so they come under your shoulders, push your hands into the floor and inhale, lift your upper body. Okay, all right, let's come back to tabletop. So back from our traditional tabletop, walk the hands one whole hand print closer to the top of the mat, hook the toes under. We're gonna lift up just one more time. Inhale, hook the toes under, exhale, sit bones to the sky, downward facing dog. Now from downward facing dog, deeply bend the knees, inhale, look forward, exhale, travel forward, forward fold Uttanasana. Push the heels down, inhale, lift up halfway, exhale, fold. Push the heels down, inhale, rise, all the way up. Fingertips reach to the sky, maybe add the back bend, hands to the heart, take a deep breath. Okay, now from here, you're gonna need the length of your mat. So it might not matter to you if you are still facing me or not, but I'm gonna be turning this way. I don't know how that affects you. I don't know where you've got the screen, but either way, I'm gonna be along the length of my mat, and you should be too. So don't take a wide stance. We won't be here long. We're just doing one pose. Okay, so take a long stance. We're taking what is essentially forward fold, which we've been taking throughout the practice here. This is forward fold. We're just taking a wide-legged forward fold. So it's just a different way to get into a forward bend, a different feeling in the legs. Okay, so a wide stance, something you would take for like a warrior two. So the longer stance, not the stance we took before. So make it even longer than that. And then hook the big toes in a little bit. So the tendency is to have them turn out. Can you turn them in just a hair? Okay, I like hands at the hips. Push the heels into the floor, stand up tall. We need length first. If we just come right into the bend, it's not a good forward bend. We need length first. Okay, so inhale, exhale, hinge from the hips. Keep your back flat like you're wearing a corset, like you're wearing a back brace. Keeping it flat for as long as possible. You might bring your hands down onto something and just stay here with a flat back. If it's comfortable, you might round, again, truly like a wide-legged forward fold. You might keep your hands sort of under the shoulders. You might walk them between the feet, almost under your hips. You might grab onto the ankles or the toes or whatever you want to do. But we're gonna stay for a few breaths. So you can keep your spine in neutral. You can round it forward, but push the heels into the floor. Push firmly through the pinky toe sides of the feet, but also across the entire ball mount of the foot. So think about pushing the base of the toes, especially the base of the big toe, down into the floor. Let's take 3 breaths here. And then wherever your hands were, bring them under your shoulders. Push your hands into the floor to return your spine as close to neutral as possible. So even if it's not perfectly flat, that's fine. Hands under the shoulders. Lengthen the spine like you're reaching the crown of your head and your tailbone in two opposite directions, just like before. Push the heels into the floor. Really fire up all of the leg muscles. Bring your hands to your hips and inhale, rise. Keep the back flat as you rise. Push the heels, really squeeze the legs. Good, and then you can heel toe the feet back together. Okay, now we're gonna cool down. So come on back to the top of your mat facing whatever way you were facing before. And push your weight back into your heels. You can wiggle the toes again. All right, inhale, fingertips to the sky. Exhale, hinge the hips, fold forward, Uttanasana. Now this will be our last Uttanasana forward fold. I'll give you a few breaths if you want to pedal out the heels, if you want to grab onto elbows and make sort of a figure eight, or any sort of stretch you want to do while we're here. We're really going to come down onto the mat in just a moment and stay there for a while. So give yourself another breath or two. Okay. And then inhale, lift up halfway. Exhale, step the right foot back. And then drop that knee down onto the ground. You're in a low lunge. And then come all the way down into tabletop. All right. From tabletop, let's take a seat. All right. I'm going to sit this way, I think. Okay. So we're going to come into a seated forward fold. So we've done standing forward folds with our feet together in a traditional forward fold. We did it with our feet wide. And then we were even folding forward with that staggered stance in the humble warrior and pyramid pose with our feet in different positions, not even necessarily symmetrical. But so now we're going to take a forward fold with both feet together. You can do this with feet hip distance or feet together. I like feet together because then they just kind of sort of can lean on each other. But and you might need a strap, but that's not necessary. So I apologize if you need a strap and have one and now you have to go grab it, but you really don't need it. Okay. So you're going to make sure that this movement, step one, comes from your hips. So if you want to watch for just a second, what we're trying to avoid, what we're not trying to do is this. Do you see how my spine looks like the letter C? Now, in Pilates, they have a movement where they are encouraging this because it's a totally different intention and purpose and reason. They say like you sort of look like a candy cane, right? You're long at the bottom and then this sort of round at the top. That's not what we want in what we're about to do. Okay, so if you want to watch again, what we're looking for is keeping the back flat, hinging forward. Notice that my back does not look like a C, and then I can reach, and then I can round. So we want a flat back to start. Then once you're there and you think, okay, this is good, then you settle. But that's the last step, so that's important. Okay, so you push your heels away from you. You reach your toes up towards the sky. You lengthen through the backs of the legs. You're gonna feel this through the backs of your legs, but you'll also feel this through the back of your back. Sit up tall, inhale. Keep the back flat as you start to tip forward. So we're not looking to create this shape of a candy cane, not yet. At the end, you might look like that, but coming into it, that's not what the sort of the journey should look like. The end result might, but not at the beginning. It's not the first step. The order of operations in forward bends are actually really important, which is why I don't teach them very often, because it's sort of a subtle, nuanced thing. So you're pulling your heart forward. Another way to think of it is instead of letting your heart drop towards your thighs, I want you to pull your heart towards your feet. How close can you get your heart and your collarbones to your feet? And then maybe you grab onto your feet. This is where a strap can come in handy. Maybe you grab onto your feet, your ankles. You can just let your hands rest on your shins though. People get kind of hung up about touching their toes, and that's where the strap can help, but you don't have to touch your toes. This isn't about your toes at all. It's about the backside of the body. So feel that stretch of the backside of the body. Maybe touch your toes, maybe don't, doesn't matter. Pull your heart forward towards your toes, And then maybe then you start to round a little bit, like your heart is falling more towards your knees. So don't think about heart towards the belly or heart towards the hips and thighs. Think heart towards the knees, heart towards the shin, heart towards the feet. I hope that helps. This is what's tough about teaching this way. I usually know a cue is working if I watch people do it the way I want or the way I'm describing, but I don't know if this is helpful. So here's hoping, but allowing yourself to fold forward. This is Paschimottanasana, a seated forward bend. Let's stay for about 3 to 5 breaths. Just let your arms relax and just take deep breaths. Now, keeping your upper body relaxed, your torso relaxed, slide your hands so they come as close to being under your shoulders as possible, and then push your hands into the floor. Inhale, lift your upper body. Push your hands into the floor to lift your upper body. Because your upper body was so relaxed, the muscles wouldn't have been ready to work. And then sit up tall. So you were eventually sort of creating that candy cane shape. So you did get there, most likely. Again, I don't really know about you, but you probably did. And so return back to like a straight line, sort of this 90-degree right angle shape with your spine closer to neutral. And just take a deep breath. Okay, all right, we are gonna come on to our backs. So again, I'm gonna grab my little towel, but you don't have to do that. You're gonna come down onto your back. And we've been focusing on forward bending, which was nice and good, but let's do a different movement of the spine to sort of break it up. So arms out. Ideally they would come directly out in opposite direction, but I'm sort of running into this. So arms out, at least sort of wide, with the palms up, knees bent, feet flat, and just like before at the beginning of the practice, let's let the knees sway from side to side. Ooh, my back just cracked. After all of that, my back just now cracked. And that feels good for me. That's sort of a really highly debated topic in the yoga world, that if a body part or joint cracks, is that a good or a bad thing? That's really, really highly debated. Everyone says they have evidence to prove their side, but I don't know. So I don't really know about that. I don't normally go out of my way to make a body part crack, but if it cracks, there's nothing I could do to stop it. So usually feels good though. So do with that information what you will. It wasn't really information or an answer to anything, but it's just a debated thing. So there's not a clear right or wrong answer of whether cracking and sort of that sound or action is good. All right, now when you're ready, there's no rush. When you're ready, let your legs fall over to the left and let them stay there. Now, thinking of highly debated topics, this is another one. Oftentimes teachers will always say, and I was always surrounded by teachers like this too, that when you do a spinal twist, you should always twist to the left first, but then other people say that there's evidence that shows that's not really all that important. But so do with that what you will, but I still, why not? Let's just go to the left. So legs over to the left, but make sure the right shoulder is down on the ground. The right shoulder needs to be making contact with the floor. Okay. If it feels good in your neck, you might turn at your neck to look over your right shoulder. Now just notice what your spine is feeling. Really check in with your body. And I'm not sure if these sounds are coming through on the camera, but just in case, they're doing construction right in front of my building. So if you're hearing like dump trucks and you know, that sort of, you're not imagining it, it's happening in front of my apartment. Okay, but let's ignore those sounds and let's take 3 deep breaths here. Okay, and then if your head is turned, Slowly return your head back to the center. Slowly do the same with your legs. Return your legs to the center. Return your spine totally back to neutral. You might have to move your hips to do that. Return everything back to neutral. Take a deep breath. Okay. So one more time, let the knees sway side to side just a few times. Just feels good to add a little bit of movement between that stillness. And this movement here, letting the knees sway side to side, is really gentle, really accessible. It shouldn't create too much sensation, but should still feel good. So this is a good movement to do if you're ever home or wherever and your back is feeling kind of funny and you're not sure what to do, like what's a safe movement, what's a safe stretch to do to relieve tension. This is usually my first thing that I do for myself, and I encourage students to do the same. Okay. Now, when you're ready, let your legs fall over to the right. So these longer held twists, these longer held poses, like the last one when I said to kind of pull your heart towards your toes, or even this one, notice that we're staying still. Those are only appropriate towards the end of the practice. So if you're practicing on your own, which I strongly encourage you to do that, just try to have it movement towards the beginning and then stillness towards the end. That's just a little safer. Okay, so letting the legs fall over to the right. You might even turn your neck to look over your left shoulder, but again, that left shoulder has to be down. That's more of a priority than the legs over. Okay. And then you just check in, you notice how you feel. Maybe you notice how this side feels different from the first. And if it does feel different, it doesn't mean it's better or worse, or one was right and one was wrong. They are just different. Let yourself relax into this twist. Soften into the stretch for 3 more breaths. And then slowly return your head back to the center. Return your legs back to the center, spine to neutral, everything back to the center. And take a deep breath. Inhale. Exhale, hug the knees into the chest, maybe rock side to side or take a happy baby. Give yourself a few moments being somewhere that feels good. Now notice when you're hugging your knees into your chest, this even is a little bit of a forward bend because you're allowing your lower back to sort of drop in. So instead of drawing your heart down, you're sort of scooping the lower section in. So this is a little bit of a forward bend. You might even, again, rock side to side. You might even sort of rock up and down, really emphasizing that forward bend feeling. This should feel like a massage on your spine though, so if it's too intense, skip it. Again, you can always go side to side. And even if you go side to side, let your head go along for the ride. Massage the back of your skull. Another breath or two here. Okay. And then we'll settle into Shavasana. So you can allow your legs to grow long against your mat, your arms out at least a foot away from the body. I'm going to come up to a seat, but you make yourself as comfortable as you can on your back for Shavasana. Okay, so make your way down onto your back into a comfortable reclined position where you feel like little to no work is happening. Where you can really relax, you can soften your muscles, soften your joints, really come into some stillness. And then just continue softening
Continue releasing, relaxing, and letting go. Slowly deepen your breath. And as you deepen your breath, create soft and subtle movements throughout your body. Letting your head rock from side to side. Run your thumbs over the rest of your fingers as you wiggle your toes. Roll your wrists and ankles. Move your arms and legs. You can reach your arms overhead, stretching as if you just woke up from a long nap. Take a deep breath in. And as you breathe out, hug your knees in towards your chest. And slowly roll over onto either side in a tucked fetal position. Keeping your eyes closed and using the strength of both arms, push down into the ground and come up to a comfortable seat. And take a moment here to thank yourself for making it to your mat today. And maybe reflect on your intention. Loka samasta sukhi no bhavantu. May all beings everywhere be happy and free, and may the thoughts, words, and actions of my life contribute in some way to the happiness and freedom for all. Now slowly join your hands together in front of your heart in Anjali Mudra, with the palms together and the thumbs softly resting on the collarbones. To seal our practice, we'll chant the sound of Om one time. Om is the oldest and most sacred mantra. Let's start with a deep and clearing breath. Inhale for Om. The light or the good in me acknowledges, respects, and bows to the light or the good in you. Namaste. Thank you so much for joining me, for following along. Again, my name is Lauren. I am the Yoga and Fitness Program Coordinator at the McFetridge Sports Center. It feels really long sometimes, but that's my title. So thank you so much for joining me, and I hope to see you in real life really soon. Thank you. Bye.